for the curative amendment.
Okay, before we get into public comment section, the one question I have, has Mr. Burrell gone forward and spoken to an engineer and looked at the wetlands and the other situation to see if it's even developable for him to proceed with the townhouse or any type of garden apartment as he was suggesting?
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I'm Stephen Burrell. No, at this time, I have not, talked to an engineer or anyone about that portion of it. Just wanted to first entertain to see if the possibility was to, have that curative amendment in place so that we could proceed with that for further investigation of it.
Okay. Virginia, you're on mute.
I think we're live on ECTV now. Finally got that worked out, I think. Okay, sorry, go back to what we were talking about.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So you're just exploring the possibility, if we are able to go forward with the curative amendment, then you would proceed then with engineering?
Certainly. Yeah, whatever would be required by the, subdivision and land development ordinance. Right.
Right. Okay, Virginia or Jen, under the current RP zone, are the types of uses that he's describing, are they conditional uses or are they approved uses?
Don't have that information with me.
They're approved uses for, well, in some cases, garden apartments are principal permitted uses, condominiums are permitted, apartment buildings, single family detached, townhouses, and two-family dwellings.
Thank you, Shannon.
Mr. Chairman, I would simply note that if the engineering did not precede this meeting, I'm guessing that there's been no discussion with PennDOT regarding a highway occupancy permit.
Not as yet, no.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
may I ask a question or two?
Certainly, John.
Okay, Mr. Burrell, I took a drive to take a look at the property. I drive by it a lot, but I hadn't been there near it. I happened to go around the back. Does the property board, I can't tell from some of the maps you have there, which are, I do have to squint to see them. Is borders on the Jefferson Street or road or whatever that is?
Jefferson is the. Yes, it would be right behind it. Jefferson would be. Right.
And also, how far back does the property go? It's quite, the way I see it, it's about 1.5 acres in total with the two pieces of land.
Yeah, I think it's 1.42 in total.
Okay, and there's a series of homes. You border it, R1 district with homes in the back. Does the land border right on those properties?
Right across from Jefferson. Not with these. No, we're not back quite that far, I don't believe. That area would be more behind the PennDOT shed there.
So there's I think it's Vosburg Road that's behind there, and the properties that are facing on Vosburg, you're not abutting those properties?
Well, it looks like there would, possibly potentially two properties there. Right?
Two properties?
Mm-hmm.
John Kazista, I could share my screen. I have Google Earth. I could zoom in pretty closely if you can see that. I'd be happy to share it.
Okay.
Let me just move everybody over for a minute. Okay, can everybody see the aerial map?
I can.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. And you can see Jefferson Street is on the bottom. I'm moving my cursor over top of it now.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan Highway is to our left. And the properties are here. There's another single family dwelling unit here. Is that part of your group
There's
of properties?
two single-family homes,
There's two homes there. Yes.
and they are not part of Mr. Burrell's property.
Oh, okay. So Mr. Burrell, your property is just this piece?
Yeah, and it actually goes behind those other two single-family homes.
Oh, really? So
Right.
it's kind of like a flag shape, if you will.
Yes.
Okay.
Are the are the two homes included in this application, or would they be excluded from the application?
They be excluded from it.
Thank you.
May I continue?
Yes, John, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That right there where you're pointing out right now, is that a road or something coming in there?
This appears to be a paper road or a utility right of way for the high voltage lines that were recently installed, part of the Roseburg project.
Okay.
Yeah, there's actually a gate somewhere right along Jefferson there that actually with that. Yeah, because
It actually is,
you're prohibited from going back in there. Right?
And the two properties that you were talking about, the residences, are those two and that in that cul-de-sac or whatever?
it's a,
Pardon?
oh, John, I was saying that it's a paper alley that actually even has been given a name, Palman Street, but it's undedicated to the borough, and PP&L has a right of way through it.
Okay. So that's where that 1.11 acre of land is on that Palman Alley or whatever?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. See, I was just having real difficulties with
The back
exactly
of it
what.
abuts the alley, and the houses on Bosberg are on the other side of the alley.
Oh, yeah, right. Over, yeah, right there. Okay. I was just trying to get a better picture of what we're talking about. I'm still somewhat unclear. I would hope that we would have had some sort of map or something, not just a zoning picture or what have you.
I'm a little concerned that we're not, and this is a question for Mr. Burrell. This is just a general comment that we're spot zoning here. If we were to do a curative amendment, it would have to be the entire parcel. Does everyone agree with that, or?
Well, you would be left with the two structures that are shown in the upper part of the display as being an R1 zone if they're not included in the curative amendment. Is that what you're asking, John?
Yes.
Yep.
Both those two properties, and I believe the PennDOT property as well.
Well, that could be true.
Yeah, it would be.
Correct. That is as well.
What is it on that property now? It's R1. What is?
And that's sometimes referred to as reverse spot zoning.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'd like to pick up again.
Yes, please.
In driving back there the other day, I noticed what almost looked like a road, but I guess it was just an area that was cut out level near those homes, and there was a culvert. I guess somewhere I have seen pictures that came through here of a swale that runs through there. But is that swale, if I'm calling it correctly, is that a part of the property we're talking about, or is that not? And I don't know that,
That swale, John, that swale is on the right of way, that paper alley.
is on the right of way. So that cleared area that you're showing right now
Correct.
is some form of right of way
Yes.
behind, okay, particular property there. And the swale is a part of that. So the line is somewhere to the left of the arrow that he's moving or someone's moving right now.
Yes. I
that's my
believe
understanding.
so.
Okay.
And is the right of way a private right of way? You said it's undedicated, so it can't be public street or alley. Do we know who owns in particular the whole right of way?
John, or Mike, did you say?
I'm sorry, do we know who owns the right of way that's being depicted in the picture that's shown on the screen right now?
No,
I know
we
you-
do not. Mike Alley, we do not know the owner. It is undedicated.
Okay,
Hey, I'm on another Zoom meeting. What's up?
Jen, can you mute, please?
Okay.
Pardon?
Hey, thanks, bye.
Yeah, there's no markers right now as far as where the property ends or begins. But we would have to presume that it's at the edge of the cartway going straight back.
I don't know. I thought it was PP&L's right.
That's what
Right,
PPNL, right.
PP&L.
Do we know if PP&L has an easement on that?
I'm assuming so. I mean, there were wires going right through there, so yeah, they must have.
Let me go back to the overall view.
There is something out of the deed here that describes it.
We believe that the Pennsylvania Power and Light Company owns that right of way. And it is noted in the legal description of the deeds.
Do you believe it's the entire right of way or? Only
page two of the deed description references that the property abuts the Pennsylvania Power and Light Company right of way, a distance of 52 feet, and then it appears a distance of 102.26 feet. It's the second and third call on page 2 of the deed description.
Okay, I'm sharing my entire screen, so I believe I could bring that up. Page 2 of the deed, Mike?
No, page 2 of the description. One more page, John.
Thank you.
And then if you go down, I believe the second and third paragraph. Up, move the page down a bit the other way, John. There you go.
Well, I saw the lands of PP&L
Right.
right here. 50 feet, 102 feet, 134 feet.
I guess the point for the commission is that right of way, if it was intended to be for access to this property, would require a lot of work in terms of both the width of the right of way and an agreement from the Pennsylvania Power and Light Company.
Right.
So that your access would have to be onto the state highway, the Morgan Highway.
Yeah, that was my intention, to be off the Morgan Highway.
Can Mr. I'm
Burrell.
sorry. Yeah,
Burrell.
Mr. Burrell, can you speak up or get closer to the microphone? Because you're very quiet when you speak.
Okay.
Good,
Is it
okay.
better?
Yep.
Now, this is very difficult on everybody, so thank you. Appreciate your patience with this. So this curative amendment, again, just for the record, we're only seeking your property, not the two single-family residences, residential style buildings that are there.
No, they're not involved in it.
They're not involved. Okay.
And the PennDOT facility would also still be in the R1 zoning district as well.
Correct.
May I ask some questions, Mr. Chairman, if John is finished? I don't know if he finished.
Well, I guess I'm finished. I just thought that we'd have a clearer picture. I mean, I've seen the Pennsylvania Power and Light on the deed and so forth, but I'm just having difficulty seeing. It appears as though we've got very straight lines here, but from the directions on the document, I'm just not sure what we're really looking at in terms of what we're supposed to be deciding on here. And with that, I'll pass it to you, Shannon.
Okay, Shannon, please proceed with your questions.
Okay. The first question I had, and this is for Mr. Burrell, that you apparently acquired this property at the end of November of 2019, if I read the deed correctly, and the property was zoned at that time or in a R1 zoning district. So you purchased the property knowing that it was in an R1 zoning district, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the application materials, make allusions to that this is highest and best use. To the best of your knowledge, in that immediate area that we're talking about there, how many garden apartments are in that area?
Garden apartments.
Or townhouses or?
Well, townhouses, right? The development up there that Rick Flory had done up in and around the library. I don't know the quantity there, but there's,
Okay.
considerable development there.
So these are the townhouses that Flory developed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I don't know who performed the work at Stonecrest Circle, but if that's part and parcel of the same group or developer, but
Yeah, they're built similarly. Yeah, I assume the same.
okay. So the intention would be for the sort of residential structure in this area.
Say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry. The intent would be to develop that sort of residential structure in this area.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And just the other question is, Mr. Burrell, has anyone told you or have you filed any applications for building consistent with the R1 zoning district? Has anyone said, no, you can't build consistent with the R1 requirements?
Can't build consistent with R1. So R1 would be single residential, right?
Yeah.
No, I had before I had purchased the property with the attorney that did the transfer for me. I spoke to him about it, and I had also spoke to the borough about it. To know that I could at least, before I purchased, and know I could at minimum be able to put a single family dwelling there.
Okay, yeah, and that's my question, that you can put a single family residential on that property
Right.
as it is now. Nobody has told you you can't do that, right?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, no problem, Shannon. Thank you.
I may have a couple other comments then, but I want to make sure that everybody gets a turn as well.
Certainly. I took a drive around the neighborhood myself. I drove both on Jefferson Street along the Morgan Highway and on the Vosburg Lane. Again, this cul-de-sac appears to be capturing quite a bit of stormwater. I believe it's coming down from the Morgan Highway itself. Is that correct, Virginia? Can you verify that?
Yes, the tennis courts, in front of the tennis courts, there is a storm drain. And that storm drain goes underneath the highway and across over to the lot and discharges. That was the way PennDOT set it up. I'm assuming they must have an easement or something because they are dumping water onto that lot.
That's interesting. So there's-
PennDOT has the capacity to move water on the right of way however they want.
Mhm.
We get that from, if we go back historically, I believe, well, it was actually Waverly Township with the Parker Hill the parking lot expansion. That was proven to be true.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely do as they want when it comes to stormwater.
Would I be saying it too strongly to say they do as they please with stormwater? Or is that a correct statement?
It
Pretty
would be
darn
correct-
close.
In my opinion, it's correct.
Okay. So they found an outlet, they placed it, and again, I'm generalizing, so I apologize to anybody at PennDOT, but when they discharge, they turn that over to the municipality and it becomes their responsibility for that discharge. Is that my understanding?
No, they discharge it onto private property.
Oh,
So it's our responsibility in the road. After they put the pipe in, they then turned around and said, okay, we did this, you're responsible for it. But where it's going is private property and we're not responsible for that. Just as an FYI, I believe a good bit of that property that we're talking about is wetlands, whether before or as a result, but it is deemed wetlands at this point.
that's why I was concerned about Mr. Burrell, if he had actually explored that yet with an engineer to understand what he might be getting into with wetlands. It happens to be that a greater portion of the property is wetlands and it remains undevelopable. And I would be concerned about him financially with that regard.
And quite honestly, that's why I asked about the highway occupancy permit. Virginia Kehoe may recall the issue of access from what we called the Nodo development onto the Morgan Highway and the impact that had at the intersection of the Morgan Highway and West Grove Street and the requirements that were put into effect at that time. It's a tough highway occupancy issue. The more capacity you have, the harder it's going to be to get a highway occupancy permit, I believe.
Right.
Correct,
So-
Mr. Burrell, you would need PennDOT to give you a highway occupancy, and there's a different highway occupancy permit for a single family home than there would be for townhomes.
Right. Yeah, because the person that or people that I bought it from said, they have a driveway placed in there and was told that that was permitted. But that was for single family.
And if I could just make a commentary, Mr. Chairman, and again, maybe I'm just being very, very blunt here, but I don't think this application for a curative amendment really recognizes how extraordinary that remedy is. We have no data here. We don't even have a map, really a usable map of the property. The requirements for a curative amendment, the applicant's burden is an extremely high burden. Essentially, literally, the applicant is accusing the borough of engaging in unconstitutional behavior and exclusionary zoning. Well, this can't be exclusionary zoning. Townhomes and apartments are permitted through in several districts in Clark Summit Borough, so it can't be that. And the other aspect of this is that this is zoned R1. It's fully consistent with the rest of the neighborhood. Why? And the Pennsylvania Supreme Court for 50 years has shot down the argument that, well, I'm near to the border of some other zoning district, therefore I should be able to, tap into that zoning district. I just don't see any data or any compelling information here to substantiate an extraordinary claim that the borough has engaged in unconstitutional behavior. I'm sorry, I just don't see it. I don't even see basic maps. I don't see information about highway occupancy permits. I don't see anything about wetlands delineations. We didn't even know who owned the property behind it. That's the applicant's burden to bring that information before, the applicant is accusing the borough of engaging in this extraordinary unconstitutional behavior. And we're expected just to redraw lines because, well, I think that might be a good idea. I am sorry. I just don't see any information here to substantiate rezoning this property.
Mhm, mhm.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
may I just make a comment?
yes.
My questions that I had earlier were quite a bit along the lines of what Mr. Shannon is expressing. I just have difficulty with trying to see where we have to go the next step here because I don't see enough information. That's all I have on that.
Well, to that end, members of Planning Commission, we'd ask for the opportunity to explore, you know, discussions with PennDOT for highway occupancy permit for a use that would be greater than a residential single-family dwelling there upon the property. If we would be able to have the opportunity to table this matter and reconvene when the commission meets next month.
If I may, John,
Yes,
as
please.
a procedural issue, Ms. Scanlon, I would hope that we could at least get a waiver on the time clock because that's another 30 days into this. And council would still need to hear and vote within that 60-day time frame. I apologize to the members of the residents listening because I said 45 days without looking at 60 days. But so if you would be willing to give us a waiver on that clock while we hold another month and give you that time to research it, we could leave this case open if the Planning Commission so decides.
And I would add that it's established procedure that if someone requests a table or an extension of time, that we receive that in writing and signed by both the developer and or council can make that representation. Has to be in writing though.
We will be happy to make that submission in writing.
Well, yes, but I am not in favor of that at all. This is not simply a conditional use or a special exception or some other situation like that. This is a situation where the applicant's burden going into this is a very high burden in order to provide the information that was needed. And we have none of that here. There's, we have a little bit of highlighting on a map that is not clear. And, I'm not in favor of doing extensions. I'm not trying to speak for the rest of the Planning Commission, but for me, this is a denial. The applicant did not make the efforts that are required to substantiate the extraordinary claims that they're making, about the borough's activity. And there's simply no basis for it here. You can build on this property R1. You knew that it was R1 when you bought it. You can build it. There's no decline in value. There's nothing else here that I see. So I don't see what extending timeframes, is going to do at this point.
Carol.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to say that I have listened very carefully, and like other members of the commission, I've also driven the roads surrounding that. I'd like to say that I concur completely with what Shannon just said. Not only do I find the data and evidence to be lacking, but I'm desperately worried about precedent setting in terms of spot zoning. So that's all I want to say at this point.
We do have quite a few folks here from the public that would like to comment as well. I'd like to just hear them, but if we could take a brief recess for 10 minutes, would that be possible?
Okay, so just to go through, Mr. Welcome, Mr. Jones, Mr. Whelan, Mr. Sadowski, and Mr. Marabelli. You're all on mute, but if you don't mind, we're going to take a 10-minute break and then we'll come back and we will hear what you guys have to say on this. If you could nod your heads, if that's okay. All right, or thumbs up.
Thumbs
Perfect.
up. I liked it.
Okay. All right, so 10-minute recess and we'll come back. And the time right now is 7:59.
Okay.
Okay, We'll see you guys in 10 minutes.
Okay.
Don, do you guys hear me? Yeah, hear me? I hear a dog. Who's that? Eddie, that your dog? Take the mute off. Donnie, take the mute off. Ed, take the mute off.
I did.
Okay. Could you hear me now? No, I can hear you. Okay. Very patient. We're all sitting to be very patient listening to this, right?
Yeah, this is interesting.
I mean, I can't believe, like, we complained for years about the water coming across the place, and now they want to do more. Oy.
Well, every time somebody sees a gold mine, they always tend to come here.
Yeah. Remember they wanted to build a mini mart back there or something, a convenience mart? And
Yeah.
they were told it was wetlands, right? What's with this guy?
This was about 10 years ago. We did this. We went through this. We had 400 signatures. And when it all came out in the wash, we kept this side of the Morgan Highway R1 and the other side of the Morgan Highway RP. And that's how it ended. And after 400 signatures from
No, you muted it. Johnny, you muted again. They muted us. Yeah, whose dog is that barking? Okay, anybody listening to me? You're all on mute. Okay, I'm back. Anybody listening?
This is John Durden.
It said I was muted by the host.
Tom, you're muted right now, sir. Mr. Sadowski, I apologize. I don't know you formally, but informally, but you are, you're muted right now.
Are we supposed to all be muted?
At this time, yes, until we like to hear from everybody one at a time, if we could.
I was just trying to talk to my neighbor. That's all. No big deal.
Okay. Okay, I've got 8:09 of my time. Are we ready to return to the meeting?
This is John, and I'm here.
Excellent. Okay, so we have,
Sounds good to me.
okay. Attorney Scanlon, are you back?
Yes, we're back.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'd like to hear from the residents. There were several concerns I saw via email. I believe, Virginia, you were going to read those to us?
Yes, actually, most of these are here. So let me read. I have one that is not on the line. Let me read that one out loud. And then we can go through the ones that are here and see if they want to. Oh, I have two that are not here. Let me see. The first one is Mr. Mirabelli. He is not on the phone. It is, I believe, his wife from the comments, the chat. So Mr. Mirabelli from 114 Bosberg reads, I am reaching out regarding a topic that I believe is being discussed by Clark Summit Council and Planning Commission today. I spoke to several of my neighbors last evening and became aware of notice given to select resident change that affects our development. I was not provided notice regarding this change, although it appears the proposed notice may affect my property as well. Since I was not made aware of the discussion until yesterday, I've not had a chance to review the proposal and evaluate it on its merits. So I will withhold comment on the proposal itself. I will state that Bosberg Lane has suffered significant water runoff issues since PP&L constructed a new power line behind my property. I am firmly opposed to any proposal that contributes further to additional runoff onto our properties. Perhaps my bigger concern is my neighbors being able to properly engage in public discussion on the matter, as I was advertised in the letter I reviewed at your office dated July 1st. I'm told that the advertised meeting for today will be moved to an online platform. I certainly hope that if that is the case, the move will be publicly and legally advertised so the public can with appropriate notice, particularly those who would be directly impacted by the matters to be discussed and have had the opportunity to properly present their views on the matter. I believe there are legal requirements and guidelines to comply with this hosting, advertising, facilitating such meetings, and I hope that they're being considered by our elected officials as they proceed. Speaking from experience, there are also simple ways to facilitate virtual meetings that properly allow for public comment. I would be happy to share my experience in helping to facilitate public online meetings with you. Unfortunately, I'll be attending another required public school board meeting at the same time as the Clark Summit meeting this evening, but I can be reached via cell phone for the prior to the meeting for contact information. And actually, I have one other email ability to come on. This email is from Thomas. Oh, shoot.
Virginia, your email's really breaking up right now.
I know, I'm
Email
having a
or your
problem. I
voice, I'm sorry,
lost.
voice.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, can hear you now. Did you just allow Mr. Mirabelli to the?
He did just join on. I don't believe he's on audio yet, but he has dialed in. But I was about to read another email and I lost it. It is from the homeowners at 1034 Morgan Highway, and they're opposed to this. And as soon as I can get that reconnected, I'll print that. That one came in at 1, so I didn't have a chance to print it. So, Mr. Mirabelli, let me see if you are on yet. Mr. Mirabelli is on. I can see him. Do you want to go the other emails that I have that are here to speak? First of all, I have Don Wheeland. He has been on from the beginning. He was the first one to connect. Maybe we could, if that's okay with you, I will.
Yes, that'd be fine. Virginia, we're still having trouble hearing you. Your audio is really breaking up.
Yeah.
I've lost my connection, John.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Chairman, if Mike thinks that this is okay and agrees with this, I would move that we adopt all the letters that Virginia received as part of the record. Would that be permissible, Mike, to do that? That we formally adopt them as part of the record?
I have, John, I'm sorry, Shannon, I have no problem with that, except that I think that the participants in the meeting should be aware generally,
Okay.
just generally of who indicated opposition to the request for a curative amendment.
Okay.
And then if information is requested, it can be obtained from the Borough Manager, Virginia Kehoe, tomorrow. I guess we're gonna have a little logistical problem at this point.
Yeah.
So we have a few. I know some of the people, I have some of them, but not all. A lot of information. I thought I did anyway. I have one from residents of 122 Vosper.
I'm back on, guys. I don't know what.
No, you're not.
Back on. I didn't hear what you decided to do though.
Well, it was, what we were talking about was what would happen in the event you were not able to summarize the emails of opposition that you received. Are you there, Virginia? Mr. Chairman, perhaps we should proceed with the verbal comment and see whether or not the written comments can be supplemented later in the meeting.
I am fading in and out. I'm having a problem with my connection.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Sounds like you're fading in and out of the bottle, so be careful there. That's how it sounds.
No judgment.
No judgment.
No judgment, just how you sound.
Oh, that's fine, Virginia. I'll run it from here on my end. Okay. Yes, I'd like to take the verbal testimony. We just submitted Mr. Mirabelli. Can you unmute your phone, Mr. Mirabelli?
Yes, hello, good evening. I do apologize for my tardiness. I was just engaged in our school board meeting here. So I didn't unfortunately have a chance to hear all the plans. So I don't think I'm well versed to speak on the specific plan being brought forth. But I will speak on behalf of my neighbors to say that we have had significant runoff issues from water on Vosburg Lane, particularly in light of the PP&L lines that have been installed between us and the PennDOT property. Pretty significant. Fortunately, our property has been spared of damage, but I've seen some pretty devastating things with my neighbors. I do know we've had a very dry year this year, but we've completely lost use of our backyard, for example, because it's just constantly wet and mushy. So I would simply say thank you for the opportunity to speak. And just in general, I don't want to speak negatively of the project because I am not aware of the details. But I will say anything that could potentially increase the rate of water infiltration or velocity or moving into our neighborhood further, I would be strongly opposed to. So again, I can't speak with authority on the plan itself because I haven't reviewed it, but I do thank you for the time, and I'll yield back the balance.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to mute you now. Mr. Wheeland, you've been waiting for quite a while. If you would like to speak, if you could unmute your device.
Hi, my name is Don Weiland. I live at 124 Vosburg Lane, which is the property that's closest to the property in question on the cul-de-sac. If you look at your pictures there, you'll see the big deck in the back of the property, the white fence. That's my property. Anyway, I have been living here since 1997. The swale that you guys were talking about is actually a drainage ditch. That is, it's not being maintained at this particular time, but that's another issue in itself. It needs to be cleaned out so that, and there is stormwater drains that leave that ditch that go under Vosburg Lane to the other watershed. Because the water, all this land here to my left of my property is watershed, to my knowledge.
Could I share my screen at this time?
Yes.
Okay, so you said you're on the cul-de-sac?
Yes.
Okay,
So
so,
that property, right there, that's mine.
okay. And then there's a drainage pipe that goes under.
Yes, it goes to there, correct?
Okay.
And there's other ones up, I think there's one or two more up the street, but I'm not 100% sure. The borough has cleaned that ditch out numerous occasions, but they're now telling me that they don't own it, so they don't take care of it anymore. But again, that's another issue. The amount of water that comes from the Scranton Country Club, okay, across or underneath the Morgan Highway onto that property that gets dumped at us is a phenomenal amount of water when it rains. I mean, it's more than you know. I have videos of water running down and taking, there's a foot of water in the cul-de-sac. In the cul-de-sac, there'd be a foot of water. And that's just when it rains excessively bad. I've only seen that a dozen times through the years, but I have seen it. There's a tremendous amount of water there. And the other issues with that, when the previous owner on that property came to me and asked me if he could access my property to get a sewer line up there, a water line up there, and some other utilities through my property. And I wouldn't let him, and I won't let the new owner either. So, you know, there's absolutely no utilities available there except for natural gas.
I'm just taking a few notes if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I saw you writing, that's why I stopped talking. But like I said, I've been here since 1997. And as long as I'm still working on the issue with the ditch, trying to clean it, I call it a drainage ditch, and trying to get some more work done there and find out who's responsible to take care of it. Because it was approved in the plans with my development as drainage and stormwater drain, but nobody wants to clean it anymore. So that's another issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I've gone back in time and I did look at Google Earth with the aerial photographs. Your house has been there, you know, the earliest photograph we have is 1992. Your house is there, I believe it
My
predates
house
that.
was built in 1987, 1988.
And that was incorporated into the deed description, did you say?
Yes. The developer put that all in, and it was approved by Clark Summit as part of the development to handle runoff water, to my knowledge. That's what I have read, but I'm not a lawyer, and I'm actually talking to a lawyer now to work on that issue.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Weiland. Is that all?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, thank you very much. I'll put you on mute now.
Okay.
Mr. Sadowski, are you interested in speaking?
Yes, please. 2 points.
Where's your address, sir? I'm sorry.
120 Vosburg Lane.
120.
Ready?
Please, please.
First point is that where you talked about the flag with that development, that's been designated wetlands for a long time. And I was always told, we bought the property in 1984, we bought it in 1980 and built in 1984, that no one can ever do anything there. It's across from 118, 120, 122. I think that's all designated wetlands right across from Jefferson Alley. And the second point is that I used to be able to go up when we got flooded out and talked to people at PennDOT, and he'd come and dredge it. It was a yearly thing that we did. And it got a lot better, but we lost the pool, I lost the vegetable garden, and my neighbor did get a lot worse. But it was terrible that they tried to dredge it, but it never really worked. And so that since they put this new line in and PPL comes in, whoever you talk to says, Clark Simmons, it's not theirs. PPL, they said, talk to PPL. PPL says, it's not ours. Talk to PennDOT. No one's taken, and they just let it go. And it's just horrendous. It shouldn't be done. And I don't understand how this is going to be any better. It's going to make it worse.
So now you have a situation where you're asking PPL or not PPL, but PennDOT to do it. PennDOT says, hey, it's not ours anymore. This is somebody else's responsibility.
I've been getting that since they put this in here in the back. It was never, like I said, it was never like that. It was nice. I'd walk up to the PennDOT guy and say, could you come and dredge it? And say, yeah, Mr. Sadowski, we'll bring it down. We'll do something. And they did it. And they opened it up and it was able to flow in there. And then when it got really bad, like Donnie said, it would come across from the country club and the tennis courts and make it a lot worse. And we just get killed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is unbelievable. They add more onto it. It's not going to work. But I do think you should look into that wetlands thing, because for years, I think this is the third guy trying to build back there. The other two gave it up because it was wetlands.
Hmm.
There's supposed to be a mini market there or something they're talking.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Well, we're certainly taking what you're saying to heart here. We'll have to look into this a little bit more, perhaps on the borough side of things. I don't know. I can't speak for the borough entirely. I can only speak to the planning commission, but thank you, Mr. Sadowski. Anything else?
Well, they say Jefferson Street, it's just an alley there. We cut the grass on it. It's
Sure.
I don't know how you could do anything with that.
Okay, very good. I'm going to mute you now, Mr. Sadowski. Thank you. If you have something else, just raise your hand if you would.
Sure.
Mr. Falkowski, can I unmute you, or can you unmute yourself now?
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can you tell us your address?
I live at 127 Vosburg Lane, right at the end of the cul-de-sac, and I'm not going to bore you with water stories and horror stories, because we've had them all, and the backyard is still a mess every time it rains. But the thing is, we're talking about, I believe the attorney referenced to consistency of the neighborhood. This is an R1 neighborhood. Anything consistent within the R1 district should be a single-family dwelling. That's why we bought this property. That's why we thrived here. We chose here because it's an R1 district. We pay taxes. I've been here for 34 years. Sure, I've been flooded. I had to install a water mitigation system in the backyard of the swamp. And putting asphalt and concrete in that property will only exacerbate the problem. So I'm not going to bore you with any more water stories. We do like the R1 designation because it does add to the neighborhood.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. Somebody, it says Maureen Jones, but I don't know. Is that Maureen?
It's already unmuted.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Curtis Jones. I'm married to Maureen. We live at 122 Vosburg Lane. So we live between Mr. Whalen and Mr. Sadowski. I think you've heard from my neighbors about we've been here since 2015, and in that time, we've lost 2 retaining because of water going through. My wife has, she's participated in other borough meetings and actually showed some council members her video from her mobile phone showing how that collapsed our retaining walls. So I echo the concerns of my neighbors. Put any concrete or any development there, I can only see that making our problems worse. So obviously we would be against the amendment. And also as well, it's hard for us to believe that putting apartments on that small parcel of land would increase our property value. I think if nothing else, it would go down by creating where we'd have folks moving in and out and not having a consistent family or consistent presence there. But thank you again for the opportunity to speak, and I found this very enlightening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. And I have also Claude, welcome. Claude?
Yes, I'm Claude Welcome. I live at 118 Vosburg. I'm probably the old guy in the street. I moved in 1985. I was the first resident on the street down here. Again, we moved in because we started raising a family because it was residential, and at that time, very quiet. I've also have been to past borough meetings complaining about the runoff, and I believe in my recollection that the Clark Borough used to dredge out the swale on Jefferson Avenue. I was at a meeting in November, this past November, and I think they even verified that the borough used to do it, and since then they've quit. Now we get runoff, a lot of runoff from PennDOT, which does what they want, and I sent some pictures in an email, and it was the moderate rain that we had on Saturday, a 20-minute moderate rain. The swale overflowed already and was running down Jefferson Avenue. So when we get an all-day rain, my house, which is a ranch house, the water rises in my backyard high enough to go in through my cellar windows because my basement is completely underground. This has happened a few times, and it happened last year. And again, with this other project, if we go through, it's going to cost more runoff. We can't handle the runoff right now, so something has to be done to alleviate the problem now. But again, there's a runoff problem. It's a wet area, and we moved in here to have a quiet residential area. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'd like to share your photographs and what your concern is. I think everybody's been speaking to this. So I'm going to share my screen. So the first picture, I believe, is where the grass was cut and just left to lay there. Second one is some of the rainfall. Third appears to be during the storm or shortly after the storm, where the water is starting to build up and go over the edge of the ditch. And the fourth is during the event where the water's running, it appears, and I guess toward Jefferson Street.
Yes, it runs. Yes, it runs down Jefferson Street. I said there's a large amount of runoff that comes from PennDOT, and then the other water adds up with the water coming across underneath the Morgan Highway.
So some
Tom,
of the
I can see the first picture of the grass cut. That's the only picture I'm seeing.
Which one do you see?
The only one I've seen is the one where the grass was being cut, the first one.
Oh,
John, I think your screen share is stuck on the first picture.
Oh, okay.
I will alleviate that right now.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
That's the one with the water flowing. You could see in the background the discharge from what appears to be the PennDOT property. I'm going to share the other photograph. This appears to be by the corner. This is the outlet pipe by the PennDOT property, and it goes toward the Jefferson Street.
And if I can say something, that is only a 15-20 minute moderate rain. If we have, a couple hours of rain or all day rain, we have flooding problems.
Well, Saturday was immediately after we had 3 inches of rain the day before, so the ground was saturated, but you can certainly see the effect. Okay. Stop the share. Okay, Mr. Welcome, thank you. Okay, Mr. Jones, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for everyone in the chat area, we put a link to a Google video that we took that's showing the amount of runoff that was coming through our retaining wall.
Okay.
So for the record,
And Mr. Jones, are you alleging that that was this past weekend? So this would be video that goes along with those photographs?
no, sir, it was probably from last year when we lost
Okay,
the wall.
okay,
Yep,
okay, thank you.
sure.
Okay. Okay, there is one more. Virginia asked me to read one of the emails from, a moment, please. From 1034 Morgan Highway. I'm gonna try to find that one.
John,
Yes, sir.
it's John Kazista. Is it Thomas H. and Barbara M. Matthews for Morgan Highway? I have it in front of me here. Do you want me to read it?
Would you please?
Okay.
Thank you.
Dear Clark Summit Borough Council, I would like to state our opposition to the request by Mr. Stephen A. Burrell for a zoning district change from residential to residential professional for raw land, Route 307 Morgan Highway, Clark Summit, PA 18411. There is already a heavy traffic issue in the area with the current residential zoning. My husband and I feel that a change to residential professional will increase those traffic issues and make for an unsafe condition. Respectfully, Thomas H. and Barbara M. Matthews, 1032 Morgan Highway, Clark Summit, Pennsylvania, 18411.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Okay. So we have heard from the applicant. We have heard from the folks. We have heard from our own planning commission members that are concerned about the process and what is being requested here. The real question is, we're being asked, I'd like to go back to the applicant. Your phone is still muted. You have an uphill battle in front of you, Mr. Burrell.
Sounds like it.
A lot of folks aren't too happy with this idea of being developed. Our planning commission is concerned about spot zoning. That's something we strongly are against. Certainly, we have also expressed, a few of our members, with regard to the statement of unconstitutionality of our zoning. I don't think you're really in favor of getting this passed. Do you still want to try to pursue this, or what would you like to do?
No, I think I'm done with it. Yeah. As far as the change, a curative amendment. Yeah.
Okay.
With all the opposition expressed,
Okay. Fair enough. I'm sorry you had to go this far with it, but you had to find out.
John, may I just make a comment though, just so that the public people that the property can still be developed as R1. All the issues that have been raised here, and it's phenomenal to have all you people participating tonight. Thank you for coming out tonight. But I just wanted to say that this property could be developed with an R1, probably a single family housing unit on it. But I thank you, Mr. Burrell, for seeing the substantial uphill battle. We're just being candid.
yeah, it's overwhelming. Yeah, that's the only way to find. I'm not as familiar with the property as you folks, the surrounding owners are. So I wasn't privy to all that information. So.
And Mr. Chairman, may I ask one other question of the applicant as well? And Mr. Burrell, I'm just asking this just to make sure. It seems like you were applying for two properties there. One's like a 0.1 acre, and the other one's, I think, the bulk of the according to the deed, it was about $25,000. Was that roughly the amount for the entire parcel? That
it was in two separate deeds. That's the way it was.
But I mean, roughly speaking, it was about that amount that for the property value.
Yeah,
was.
I don't recall exactly.
Okay,
Something like that.
that's good
Yeah.
enough. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, well, you're going to withdraw your application for
The
curative
application
amendment?
is hereby withdrawn, yes.
Okay, thank you.
We will need that in writing.
Yes,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
We'll submit, we'll make that submission in writing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Is
you,
it,
Attorney
is it
Scanlon.
enough for us to just email a document to you to that effect? Or
Sure.
shall I
Just
mail
so
it to-
just so it bears a signature, Kim, that would be all.
Okay. Will do.
I would just like to say something because this meeting tonight is almost a miracle that it came off. I want to give a lot of credit to Virginia Kehoe and to Jen Basilega because as of about 9 o'clock this morning, this was a wing and a prayer that this was going to take place. And I know that they worked on this all day
This
to
was
make it
great.
happen.
I gotta tell you, she's not,
And-
she can't even link up here, but yeah.
And it's our first public meeting since the COVID pandemic put us under wraps. So many different things legally have changed since the pandemic, but getting this so that it could meet the requirements of the Commonwealth is an incredible amount of work. And even the borough solicitor managed to go to the offices today to keep it going. And I'd also like the members of the public to know that the people who represent the borough on the planning commission are all volunteers. And we have been working for months with regard to a new zoning ordinance for Clark Summit Borough. And I would say that with the leadership of the organization and the input of Shannon Brown, who has worked with the SAPA organization, Clark Summit is years ahead of everybody else in terms of the work that has been done. I just want to give credit where credit is due, that we have volunteers who work on behalf of your community, and it's a good thing, and they're good people.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
And after you said all of that, Mike, now Virginia pops up.
So it's recorded. She won't believe what I said.
I'll play it for her.
But so at this point, go ahead, Shannon.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. I'm sorry. I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to advise the chair that even though this matter seems to be resolved, that we should recess this meeting because the agenda called for SAPA considerations, and we'll have to take that up next week. We shouldn't adjourn. We should recess at this point to the call of the chair.
Thank you, Michael.
And Mr. Chairman, if I can just make, I hope that this isn't out of turn, but we've heard from a number of members of the public about what appears to be a water issue in that area. That's it seems somewhat separate from Mr. Burrell's situation, but I would hope that maybe we as a planning commission could recommend to, and for the members of the public that are on here, we are simply a recommending body. We are not a policy making body, but maybe we could kind of send a letter or something like that to Borough Council recommending that they look at. I'm sure Virginia is already on top of this. I'm sure Jen and everybody, I'm not trying to say that they're not, but maybe for the members of the public there, that we could just kind of maybe send a letter and say, you know what, we heard this, we've seen photos, we've seen videos, you know, we would recommend that this be checked into.
Take that under advisement. Thank you.
Appreciate
Good
that.
suggestion.
Let's do that.
If I can also add on behalf of Mr. Burrell, I think that would be very beneficial to him as well as the property owner, so that he can at least put this this land to some kind of use, in hopes of building a single family residence there if he should choose.
Well, we make an application soon.
Of course.
Thank you.
Can I just verify? So we're going to reconvene next Wednesday?
That is correct. We're going to recess this evening and then reconvene next Wednesday.
And for the general public, that's solely for the purposes of reviewing the proposed new zoning ordinance under this Scranton Abington Planning Association ordinance.
Thank you, Mike.
And it doesn't involve this particular application whatsoever. But you're invited to participate nonetheless.
Okay.
Well, thank you all for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
People
time
did a
is
good-
8:45 PM. We are officially recessed, and we'll see you all next week.
Night.
Bye-bye.
Night, everyone.
Night.